This is a place where people still believe in spirits and turn to shamans for advice. At the same time, Buddhism here is widely practiced. People here believe in miracles just as much as they do in the powers of science. This is a land where time seems to have come to a standstill. "26,000 square kilometers of mountains, rivers and virgin forests. Humans are a rare sight here. The Sowinski district is situated in Buryatia's southwest, close to the border with Mongolia. It is one of Russia's most sparsely populated areas. Only 5,000 people live in a valley overshadowed by the Sayan Mountains. Most of them are Soyots. Their nomadic ancestors settled here hundreds of years ago. There is just one road that leads to the faraway region, which was only commissioned in 1993. However, numerous mountain streams often flood it, making travel impossible. Before setting out on a journey, locals turn to shamans for help. Badmar Dondakov wants to see his brother, who tends a herd of yaks high in the mountains. He believes a shamanic ritual will ward off any dangers during the long trip.
This is the right place for rituals. As you can see, 3 rivers meet here. The number 3 symbolizes life, spirituality and power. Here, rituals quickly purify people. Water absorbs bad energy to produce a sense of calm and gives an aura of protection.
At the other end of Buryatia, a short distance from the republic's capital, Ulan-Ude, several men are about to be ordained as shamans. The ritual will last 3 days. The would-be shamans will be almost entirely deprived of sleep and food. They will go into a state of trance to appeal to the spirits of their ancestors.
We're nomadic people, and therefore the initiations used to be held where the community happened to be at the time. But today there's a process of globalization going on. We've set up a religious organization of shamans. This is where the initiations are performed now.
Boris is an entrepreneur. He will be among the initiated. It will be the most important day of his life. Boris knows there have been several outstanding shamans among his ancestors, so he has no other choice but to become one himself. After the ritual, he will be a healer, an advisor, and a teacher for many.
Only people who have suffered from disease can be shamans. It's called shaman sickness. Each clan is supposed to have a line of shamanic succession. The ability to talk with the spirits is handed down from generation to generation.
The initiation ceremony went off without a hitch. The spirits have allowed Boris to attend the Surbakhan Festival of Shamans. On the way to the festival, the novice shaman explains what his ancestors' religion means to the people.
The Buryats always trusted their ancestors. Each clan had a patron saint in the person of a shaman. The Buryats worship only their ancestors. Here we pray for Buryats and everyone else living here, not just for ourselves. In our prayers we ask for good fortune and wealth.
The Surbakhan festival is held on the Five Fingers Plateau. Last night, people gathered around a sculpture in the form of a hand pointing to the sky. The monument is believed to have been erected by ancient inhabitants of this land.
They do look like 5 fingers sticking out of the ground. People say the other palm is located somewhere in Mongolia. In early summer, shamans began their rituals with a plea for people's well-being. I come here for the sake of my family's prosperity.
At Ivolginsky Dat-san, Buryatia's major Buddhist monastery, monks rise early in the morning. Sokto has to be up for the first prayer at 7 a.m. The monks lead a reclusive life and barely venture outside. The monastery's 170 inhabitants follow a very strict daily routine. Only lunch and prayers interrupt the activities at the Buddhist monastery. There is a Buddhist university in the Dat-san. Nearly 200 monks attend it. Monastic life is very simple. There are several monks to a room.
Students from the university live in this small building. This is my bed. Third-year students also live here. There is also a room for the teacher. I found it difficult to adapt to the monastery's austere way of life, but you get used to it with the passage of time. The routine becomes part of your life.
Sokto differs from his fellow students in many ways. Most monks begin practicing Buddhism from a young age. Sokto was well into his 30s before he decided to take it up, exchanging his shirt and tie for the crimson robe of a monk.
I became disenchanted with conventional life. I realized that it would get me nowhere. That is when I decided to take the spiritual path. For the layman, Buddhism is just a religion. But for people who want to move forward and study the teaching in earnest, it is a boundless science. It is almost impossible to comprehend all of it, even if you spend a lifetime studying.
Ivolginsky Dat-san is considered one of the key spiritual centers of contemporary Buddhism in Russia. Hundreds of pilgrims come here every day. To begin with, they go through a special ritual. They need to spin Buddhist drums as they make several rounds of the Dat-san. Each of the drums contains thousands of sheets of paper with prayers inscribed on them. It is believed if you spin a drum once, you have to read all the prayers in it. This simple method may improve your karma, which Buddhists believe affect the chances of reincarnation. Baikal, the world's deepest lake. Local tribes worshipped it long before the arrival of Russian colonists. Yevgeny Klepikov is in the tourist trade, a popular business here. He has explored every nook on the shores of the Great Lake. Barguzin Bay is one of the most beautiful spots around Baikal. It is famous for its sandy beaches and a spectacular view of the St. Nose Peninsula.
From here, you get a good view of the St. Nose Peninsula and Mount Markov with its snowy top. The snow is still there, even though it is the month of June now. The beach is about 30 kilometers long. It's the longest beach on Baikal.
This time, Yevgeny has organized a bike tour. He will take a group of young tourists to the most sacred and mystical sites in the vicinity of Baikal. The starting point is near the St. Nose Peninsula. This land is covered in tall mountains and thick forests. In the old days, Buryats revered it as one of their most sacred sites. Rituals were performed on the peninsula, and the most respected shamans were buried here.
This place is charged with enormous energy. It gives people strength throughout the journey.
Such excursions are becoming increasingly popular. Tourists like to choose routes that pass through the so-called places of spiritual energy. Many of them can be found in Buryatia. Another point of interest is in the valley of Barguzin River. The area is often called the Sowinski stone castle because of its resemblance to the Gothic architecture of medieval Europe. One theory suggests that the mountains were the last outpost of the Burger Mongols, who inhabited the valley in ancient times. Legend has it that they are home to spirits of the wind.
This is a wind-swept place. Locals used to think that the eagles flying over the valley were in fact the souls of shamans.
In the Okinsky district on the other side of Buryatia, Badma Dondakov is going up to see his brother. On his way, he will pass by a sacred place. Whenever Badma passes by, he stops and bows to it before pleading to his ancestors to grant him good luck during his long journey. Meanwhile, Badma's brother Bulat and his wife are treating yak skins. Soyots use them to make clothing, footwear and harnesses. This technique is thousands of years old. Locals still prefer homemade things.
My mother taught me the skill. That's how my parents always did it. Homemade things are of better quality.
As soon as they stretch the skin and suspend it from stakes, they make a small fire to smoke it thoroughly. They put fir cones and juniper into the fire. This gives yak skin the necessary firmness and color.
For the skin to get a good coloring, it is smoked for 30 minutes. Then it is turned over and smoked from the other side. As a result, the skin turns orange.
Bulat hasn't seen his brother for half a year. Like their ancestors, Soyots spend most of their lives in temporary camps. In winter, they go downhill to be closer to the rivers. In summer, they use the passes to reach pastures up in the mountains. There are no roads here. To get here, his elder brother will have to cross several fast-flowing mountain streams. Bulat asks local spirits for help and offers them a sacrifice in the form of several drops of fresh milk.